Welcome to Peak TV. I'm Niv Dagan, Executive Director of Peak Asset Management, and we've got Paul Rennie, CEO and Managing Director of Paradigm. Paul, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks very much, Niv, and it's great to be here.
Paul, Paradigm, you've been listed for about 6 months. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Paradigm is a drug repurposing company. What that means is we take an existing drug that's gone through the regulatory pathway and find new indications for that drug. What that does is it creates significant commercial value for investors in that the drug development timeline to market is significantly reduced. It's about a quarter of the time it takes for new drugs to get to market, and it's a fraction of the cost. So we're very, very happy with the way that we're proceeding. We have 3 programs and they're all in phase 2 clinical development.
And Paul, can you tell us a little bit more about the specific drugs that Paradigm looks at?
Yes, Niv, we have one drug, which is a drug that comes from Bene Pharma in Germany. It's the only FDA-approved version of a drug called pentazan polysulfate. Pentazan polysulfate's been used in humans for over 60 years, and it's been used for indications such as blood thinning and also for treatment of painful bladder syndrome. What Paradigm is doing is we're repurposing that same drug for 3 new indications. The new indications are bone bruising, which is an emerging market in the orthopaedic space. The second is respiratory indications, and our lead indication there is hay fever. And the third indication is a viral infection, alphavirus infections, which are transmitted from mosquitoes to humans.
And Paul, what sort of stages of development are they in?
All 3 drugs are in phase 2 development. The bone marrow edema clinical trial, phase 2 clinical trial, is currently recruiting patients. The hay fever indication phase 2 trial is going to commence this December, and the alphaviral infection phase 2 trial will commence in 2017.
And Paul, I want to talk more about the hay fever side. Obviously a huge addressable market, $11 billion. Can you tell us a little bit more about Paradigm and your point of difference relative to Rhinocort, and obviously some of the mergers and acquisition activity that's happening in the space?
Yes, the 2 major therapeutic areas for treating hay fever are the early phase. Those drugs are mast cell stabilisers or antihistamines, and they address the allergic reaction within the first few minutes of the disease. 6 to 8 hours later is what we know as the late phase of the disease, and this is dominated by an inflammatory response. That inflammatory response is dampened by corticosteroids, but there are some known side effects with corticosteroids. The wonderful thing about our drug and our development so far is that the anti-inflammatory effect in the late phase of the disease of our drug has been proven in a peer-reviewed publication to be as effective as the leading corticosteroid Rhinocort. But also our drug has been shown in independent studies to also be a very powerful mast cell stabiliser. So we hope to be the first in class of a new drug, which would mean that we would have activity in the early phase and the late phase and not be dependent on corticosteroids as the active agent.
And Paul, I mean, $4 billion of sales for Rhinocort. There's a lot of mergers and acquisition activity in that space. Can you tell us a little bit more about what is happening and where you see the upside?
Yes, well, the respiratory market is an extremely aggressive market. There's a huge market, as you said before, a lot of big companies vying for market share. And I think this combination of an early phase and late phase non-steroidal product will put a lot of the big pharma companies on notice that this new class of compound is emerging, and we hope to enter into discussions with big pharma companies sometime in 2017.
And that peer review publication, I mean, that is significant. Can you tell us a little bit more about what it means for Paradigm?
There's a number of factors that are very significant about that publication, Niv. First one is that it was conducted by a group of people at Lund University in Sweden, headed by Professor Jonas Ehrfeldt. Now, Jonas is a world-renowned expert in the area of airway inflammation. So he has done work for many of the big pharma companies, and the model that he has is validated. So many other drug companies have used his model to validate their drugs. So that's a very important starting point. Then secondly, as part of our study, we not only compared our drug to a negative and positive control, we also compared our drug to that very large product that you mentioned before, the corticosteroid Rhinocort, or its drug name is budesonide. And so that's a comparator drug study. What that means is that the effect that we see with our drug, hopefully if that translates into the same effect in humans, would mean that our drug is as effective as the #1 selling corticosteroid on the market. And probably thirdly, the very big significant impact of having a peer-reviewed publication is that it means that for all of our investors, all of those people interested in our company, it's external validation. It means that probably 2 or 3 independent world-leading experts have reviewed the data and then concurred that the data is in fact accurate, it's validated, and it means that people can then rely very much on the data that's being published.
Paul, been on the road for the last 2 weeks, long time, seeing fund managers, seeing brokers. How's that been? What sort of feedback? Can you tell us a little bit more for shareholders what you can expect for the next 3 to 6 months?
Yes, well, we've had a very, it's actually probably been close to 4 weeks now on the road, seeing anyone and everyone who'll be prepared to take a meeting. I think the vast majority of people have been very impressed and very excited with the pace at which we've moved. We listed, as you said, less than 12 months ago, and since that time we've now got our 3 programs ready to start in phase 2 trials. A lot of people can't believe the amount of work and the success that we've had. I would like to reassure the investors that have been with us since the start that everyone is working very hard. We've seen a nice run up in our share price, but we realise the job is only partly done, and we've got a long way to go, and we look forward to reporting on these phase 2 trials in 2017.
And Paul, thanks very much for joining us at Peak TV.
Thanks, Nev.